Time for a high and low quick bite. I'm Ike Amaechi. I'm here with Ugo, Stephen, Leslie, Mitch Orsatti, and Sean Khan. You've all heard the term armchair quarterbacks, fans who put themselves in the shoes of an NFL quarterback and critique every decision as if they could play the position any better. In the NBA, there are no quarterbacks, but we have point guards and coaches that have a considerable amount of influence on how and on the hows and the whats that happen on the NBA basketball court. NBA fans often talk about the game as if they know more than the coaches, players, and even executives. And there's nothing wrong with that. It creates discourse around the game, which brings attention to the league, and attention brings money. Anyway, I digress. On high and low, we have 4 armchair coaches here: Hugo, Steven, Sean, and Mitch. So with your NBA coach hat on, let's answer this question for me. If you were an NBA coach, would you rather have 2 top 15 players with great attitudes, contributing to a positive team culture, or 1 top 5 guy who might attract other stars but is completely toxic? What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, for me, if I'm the coach, it's the 2 top 15 guys. I feel like having a toxic superstar will get you fired real quick. Having 3 toxic superstars might get Steve Nash fired quick. But the question is, are we trying to win games, or are we trying to attract attention? So maybe management and ownership might be more willing to sign that 1 toxic superstar because he puts a lot of eyes on a franchise, but the coach isn't probably going to have a good time with it.
But what do you
flip side?
As a coach?
I know. Well, I guess I'll get to that. But the flip side is that, am I going to be the coach that's going to get through to this guy and turn him into that team first superstar? Because if that's a possibility and he attracts other superstars, then it becomes a better situation than that top 15 situation. But as we've seen throughout history, those toxic personalities can be reined in for a short period of time. But when things aren't going their way, or if the team's performance drops a bit, those toxic traits become more prevalent, and coaches get fired and players get traded. So I think if I had to choose, it would be the 2 top 15 guys, because job security.
There you go. Job security. I agree with that, actually. Hugo.
Well,
I heard you chiming in there.
There's only one right answer for this, and hopefully my brethren on this call, read the question properly, right? So you get the top 5 guy because he'll attract other stars to play with you. We've seen the example over and over again, even with a specific team that we're no longer talking about on the podcast. There's levels to this game, and unless you're telling me that those 2 top 15 guys are in the top 5, which you didn't specify in the question,
top 15.
Yeah, but you said top.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your flow.
Yeah,
but anytime someone says, "Oh, he's a top 15 guy," that means that the person in question is the 15th ranked player on that list.
All right, that's fine. That's good.
Just so that we're aware of this. So when I say 2 top 15 guys, that means that these guys are probably 13 or 14.
Yeah, I'm just thinking 14, Steven, because I know he's got an answer cooking, right? So
no. They're not both 2 top 5 guys.
They're definitely not below 10, or you would say top 10.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's fine.
These guys are
what's a good example? Boston, is that our prototypical example?
Jaylen Brown isn't top 15 yet, but that's pretty close, I think.
Right. Okay.
Pretty close.
But the Clippers, obviously, Kawhi's top 5.
You know who it actually probably is?
Those guys are both top 10 players.
It's probably It's probably Miami with Bam and Butler, right? I think that's closer than Boston.
That's close. Yeah. That's a good example.
They were pretty close to winning the title last year.
Yeah, but again, there's levels in the game. The top 3 guys are probably worth your 2 guys that you're talking about below. Like, one of those guys is worth 2 of them below, right? You're telling me that if you don't take LeBron, Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant on your squad with a little bit of a salty personality, that you get people to work with and try to, make the team function, knowing fully well that those 3 players will most likely attract more players to come and play with you that will allow you to build a championship team, right?
But
We're
those
not
guys
trying
are
to.
toxic.
Let me interject.
Yep.
Not a little bit of salt. I said completely toxic. This guy is on Boogie circa 2017 type toxic. That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. Completely toxic.
Okay. Yeah. Listen.
He's going to poison your locker room.
But if he attracts other people to come and play, obviously he's got something. If you can work with it and say, listen, we just gonna have business, right? Come, play the game, win the game, go about your business, right? I like the risk. I like the drama. I like the anarchy and chaos. Why not go for it? There's nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with it at all. But top 3, there's a big difference between top 3, top 5, and top 15.
Well, I mean, hey, as Sean pointed out earlier, Miami's a team that can probably be compared to this, and they went to the finals last year, right? And Milwaukee, not to say that Giannis is toxic, but Milwaukee had a top 5 guy, and they didn't go to the finals. So, all right, I like that. Okay, so
Lakers did.
they have 2 top 5 guys. Both of
and neither of them are not toxic.
Yeah. So, all right, Mitch, what do you think?
Well, first off, this is a damn good question because I thought I had my answer for it like 5 separate times. Every fiber of my being wants to say that I would take the 2 top 15 guys and, hope to build a culture that wins a championship and you go from there. I thought it was that easy, but it isn't, because you have to go with the top 5. You have to go all the way back to the 1989-1990 finals before you get a matchup that doesn't feature a top 5 player. And you barely get to there because they had the top 6 guy. Anyone have a guess?
Isaiah?
No, but you're close. He's in that series.
Sorry, what year were you saying?
1989-1990 finals.
So it's Dumars, Isaiah.
It's Detroit versus Portland. And in
Clyde.
that year, Clyde
Draxler.
finished 6th in MVP voting.
Terry,
From that year on, there has not been a finals without a top 5 player. So you have to go with it, regardless of how toxic the person is. You try to work with it, and if it doesn't work, you trade them for 10 years of draft picks and move on.
There you go.
Smart man.
But as the coach, though, you're not thinking about trading for 10 draft picks. You're thinking about coaching that team on the court.
Well, I mean, as the coach, I bend to the will of the organization, right? If they bring in a guy who's a top 5 guy and he's toxic, I do my best to work with it.
Okay, but then say this top 5 guy is toxic and they do decide to trade him, do you think you're keeping your job?
Well, what choice do I have there? If they bring in the guy or not, I don't have a choice in that matter. Like maybe I'm Pop and I do have a choice, but every other coach in the league can't say, don't bring that guy in. I don't want to coach him.
Okay. Perfect example. That ties into what I was just about to say. What if you as a coach, you have a special relationship with management, right?
Oh.
Where your input really does mean something.
Then you know what? My answer doesn't change. If my input means something, I say, look, I don't want to coach this toxic personality, but I recognize that in order to win a championship in this league, you need a top 5 player. So I say we get him. We see if we can make it work. And if we can't make it work, I need you to really have my back and realize that this isn't on me. I'm going to give it my best. And if it doesn't work, we trade him and we get a draft pick, lottery and treasure chest, and we go from there.
There you go. All right. I like it. The line has been drawn in the sand, folks. We got Ugo on one side. Sorry, no, Ugo and Mitch on one side.
Exactly.
Is firmly on the other. All right. So, Steven, where do you stand? What are you doing in this situation?
So, listen, I looked at the top 15 players in the NBA over the last 3 seasons. I didn't go too deep like Mitch did, 1990. That's a little too far. And I didn't see any winners. But then when I look at the top 5, all I see is championships across the board.
Yep.
And not really any toxicity. So I'm not here to be your friend as a coach. I want rings, plural. And if I get the top 5 guy, we attract more people. Boom, we got ourselves a squad. And if my player is toxic, I'm gonna be toxic with him. I'm gonna be the Don Nelson. I'll get texts, I'll get whatever it is, but we're gonna kill you. We're gonna kill the other team. They're gonna be upset because we're so toxic. And then other GMs are gonna be ask me, how do I manage this player? It doesn't listen. It's all about us winning, and no top 15, not even a top 8 guys comparable to a top 5 in the NBA. Because there's so much of a difference of a gap between like those top 5 guys and everyone else.
Yeah.
It's true.
I
So
think
you're
that-
going full Chuck Daly mode. It's like, no, I'm embracing the bad boy.
Well, I like Don Nelson as a coach. He's getting texts and sticking up for his guys when they were just launching threes and all that with the old Golden State team. But so it works.
Sean, you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say, like Steven said one thing, and I think Mitch said it as well. Like none of the top 5 guys in the league right now would be considered toxic, or none of the guys that have won titles would be considered toxic. So if a guy is a top 5 and he is toxic, I think he slowly crawls out of that top 5 eventually, a la Russell Westbrook, right? Who many people would consider toxic. He at one
never
point
top
he was
5.
considered. I would say he was top 5. He won the MVP of the NBA. He was definitely a top 5 player in the NBA.
One season.
No, he's had multiple seasons where he'd be considered top 5 in the NBA for sure.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
Anyway,
I don't
so
know about
he's
that's
won an
politics
MVP.
of
He's won an
of the
MVP. He's been in that top 5. He's been in that top 5.
I'll
more
give
than
you
1 year.
once. I'll give you once.
Listen,
No.
and that's only because he got the MVP.
You guys know me. I'm not even a Westbrook.
I know, but that's questionable.
Not a
Like,
Westbrook guy, but
I don't think it's questionable. If he won MVP, is he not won?
Yeah, that year.
exactly.
Okay,
No,
so
that
he
year.
won. He won because of his statistics.
But-
if he didn't get the MVP, would you still consider him top 5 that season?
but he did.
At
It's
one,
not a what
at
if
one
question.
point, yeah, at one point in his career, if I had to pick one guy to start a franchise with, it would have been Westbrook before he won the MVP. If a guy is toxic, you're probably not going to win a title with him, right? Like the guys that have won titles are not toxic.
Can I
So-
throw one name in there that I think
Yes,
is an
please.
interesting border name? What about Jordan?
Mm,
Jordan had some toxic to him. Kobe too.
yeah. Yeah.
How about this? Look at it.
He
This
forced
Kobe was
those guys
definitely
forced
toxic.
those guys forced you to bend to their will, and that's toxic in my opinion. And
But they're
LeBron-
good.
LeBron
and
was
they're some of the
toxic.
biggest
They're
winners of all
probably
time.
Outweighed their bad.
LeBron was toxic at one point too.
evil LeBron.
Oh, Miami LeBron.
Miami
yeah.
LeBron.
So, Mitch said that Clyde Drexler finished 6th in MVP voting, so that means he's not top 5, right?
And that's parsing.
Not necessarily.
It's not just because he finished 6th. It's because the 5 guys ahead of him were Jordan, Magic, David Robinson, Charles Barkley, and Karl Malone. He's not better than any of those guys.
All right, so that's why he's 6th. Because then we just got to edit that, because when Sean said Westbrook was top 5, some of you guys were hyping up, which means that you guys are the toxic people.
Look at this dude.
Whoa.
I said Westbrook
I-
was there for that 1 year.
I failed to see the correlation. I'm just trying to
I
see
agree.
the Steven
like-
logic here.
I'm like,
Because
take
both-
that MVP away. Is he really still top 5? That's what I'm saying.
Because
Listen,
both
Mitch
guys-
brought that up because it's a metric. Okay, like,
exactly.
but I'm saying that.
But then Sean
but
did as
the-
well. So don't
No. The top five conversation is always subjective, always,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But for some people, it's easy for you to just basically say, okay, let's look at the MVP voting in that year, right? But let's keep in mind that generally speaking, the top 5 conversation is subjective. So it's clear that LeBron James is the top 5 guy. It's clear that Giannis is a top 5 guy. I think when you get into the 4 and the 5 and the 6, sometimes
Yeah.
you have to look at those metrics to solidify your argument. And Westbrook was never a 1, 2, 3 guy. It's questionable whether he was better than the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th guy. Like, I think he would have been in that range.
in that season.
Even
I
in-
thought it was top 5.
Definitely in that season.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a big problem with the fact that he won the MVP that season, because I think that it was based strictly on narrative, and it's strictly on the fact that he was able to average a triple-double, as opposed to actually being the most valuable person on that team and contributing to the wins on that squad.
He was
You know
the
what I
only
mean?
guy on that team. KD
Yeah,
was.
but there were other players that year that I felt contributed more to their team, that were actually more valuable to winning seasons. They were a 6th seed that year
So you just have
in the West.
You just have vendetta against him. But that's
It's not a vendetta. It's not a vendetta. It's basically, to me, it's just about logic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when we get into these conversations about all-star voting, MVP voting, all these things. Like that's when we start to step outside of the realm of logic, and we talked about this before with I think we talked about this with the MVP voting, how sometimes it's about the story and all these things, and I think with Westbrook that year, he definitely won because of the story. You can't tell me that he was better than James Harden, that he was a better player than James Harden that year. Can you tell me that he was a better player than James Harden that year?
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm just saying Sean brought this up, and I'm just trying to tell Sean that he's correct. But the haters
but I'm okay.
The topic.
I'm thinking twice about my stance now.
You're trying to be Marty Jannetty 3 weeks in a row. I'm telling you that this guy's going to super kick you through the window again.
I'm just saying.
Because look, Sean is already rethinking his position, and you're still there.
I'm just listening to what you're saying. There's 3 things that are guaranteed in this podcast, and one is Westbrook being brought up weekly, and I've proven that again. He's brought up again.
My question is how many times has Russell Westbrook been top 5 in voting?
Hugo, you can ask
once.
No,
right?
Definitely
or twice.
More than once. 2017 and 2018, I'm looking at now. He was 5th, and that's the first year I looked up.
It's 4 times. It's 4 times.
Okay.
So is that our main metric here? Is like
no, and I wasn't saying I wasn't saying that was the main metric. I was going with that 1989 year in particular because there was such a clear gap not only in the MVP voting, but in the clear talent disparity between 1 through 4 to number, or 1 through 5 to number 6.
Yeah. And I think that it's a safe metric if you're looking at, say, your 4th and your 5th guy. Because in most years, I think there's your first 3 guys, to me personally, I think are usually there's usually a bit of a gap between 3 and 4.
So for clarity, 2014, the first year Westbrook was in that top 5. 4, 5, 6 was Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and Chris Paul. The next year was Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and Chris Paul. And then the following year is the year he won.
So Kevin Durant being on Golden State.
You can quibble.
Kevin Durant being on Golden State. Okay, well, in 2017-18, he was on Golden State, and he was behind Westbrook. But, like, who's this? Like,
exactly.
Say that Westbrook
Durant is the better player. Exactly.
He was just on a team with more superstars.
Shout out to DeMar DeRozan finishing 8th that year.
Yeah. There was one year where somebody gave DeRozan like a 2nd or 3rd place vote. I'm like, what idiot? Like, what Toronto idiot gave him that vote? Like,
since you guys are looking up where Westbrook finished throughout those years, I just want to know where did Dame finish throughout those years?
Ahead of him.
He finished ahead of Westbrook.
2017-18,
he finished 4th.
Mitch, you go. Sean, okay, everyone, take a shot. Because
you brought up Dame. Yeah, you want to talk about how Westbrook comes up every week?
Oh gosh,
check the mirror.
Check the mirror. Listen, our podcast should be called Damian Lillard and Friends. He's on the Instagram again this week.
Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Super kick, bang. And that has been another high and low quick bite. Look for new quick bites every week on this YouTube channel, along with other bonus content you won't find on the weekly podcast. So like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.